Hi, I'm Reverend Tom Kearns, and welcome to 333 Magic 9, where the tarot cards and stars come together to help you. 2021 is going to be quite a different year than last year, but there still are some critical days you need to know about because they can affect your love, your money, and your career. So let's take a closer look. Sagittarius, the card for the first quarter, January, February, March, is the Three of Wands. And as you can see, the Three of Wands is looking out over the horizon. So looking into the future, seeing the possibilities that are coming. And he's very much in command of where he is standing. And he is actually illuminated from above. And look at the beautiful golden light that's all around him. So the future here holds opportunity and some challenges, no question about that, but it does look better than what the past seemed to be. So as we look into the astrology, the chart, the first thing we want to talk about is Jupiter conjunct Saturn, and that's right down here in the third house of the mind and your ability to communicate and analyze. So Jupiter and Saturn conjuncted in the sign of the very end of December, the 18th and the 20th, and then both moved into the sign of Aquarius from the sign Capricorn. Now, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto were in Capricorn, causing all sorts of trouble and delay and pandemics and everything else for the past year, really. And that's the first time those three planets have been together in centuries and centuries and centuries, thousands of years. So it really was quite an occurrence. So Jupiter and Saturn now, though, are beginning to open up. They're separating. So Saturn represents delays and struggles and difficulties and, structure. And Jupiter represents opportunity and optimism, enthusiasm for the future. So now that they're separating here, things should start going a little bit easier, especially in your local environment and in the way you're thinking and learning and things that you need to do. And even travel can be affected in a very good way. Now, as we go into the month, there is a square between Mars and Saturn on the 13th. Now, this is not a happy square. Mars is in the red here, and Saturn is down here. Saturn right there. Saturn's the orange. So when Mars squares Saturn, what we get is frustration and delay, because Mars is the warrior. He wants to do things, he wants to do them now. And Saturn says, hold on, wait. So this is a difficult situation, and it is going to happen from the sixth house of work to the third house of detail and mind and thinking. So you might have to be careful in those areas. Make sure you're planning your what you're trying to do well and keep an eye on all the details. The very next day, January 14th, Uranus, Mars, and Jupiter are all squared with one another. So this is a very heavy duty aspect. So you're going to have to be very, very careful not to push too hard. Don't gamble. Don't be pushy, and don't, have problems created in your work situation, and that will cause a lot of difficulty in your environment, your basic way of thinking and doing things. So be a little bit careful with that. And then Mercury will turn retrograde. Mercury is the deep blue here, right down here in the third house on January 30th, and he stays retrograde until the 21st. Now, Mercury retrograde always suggests we have to be careful with planning and the way we're thinking and communicating and traveling. And this is, really emphasized because Mercury's in the third house, and that's what the third house really rules. So do be a little extra careful. Now, in February, Saturn, again the orange line, will square Uranus. Again, that's in the house of work and also health. So Do not allow yourself to be stressed out. Make sure you're taking care of business. Make sure you're communicating well and watching details. So be flexible, because what's happening here is Saturn represents the past, Uranus represents the future. So the past may be fighting against the future. So old structures against new responsibilities and duties. So make sure you balance those two things. As we move into March, Venus, the powder blue line here, will be moving into Aries. Now, this can be exciting for love, but you know, Aries and Venus aren't the happiest combination, because Aries is a very fiery sign and Venus tries to be very peaceful and loving. So that can be very challenging. Now, if you like challenge and romance, well, that might be good for you. But remember, the energy is there, so be a little bit careful. Don't be too independent if you're involved in a relationship. When we move to the second quarter, and that is April, May, and June, the card for this quarter is the Seven of Coins, now, or Pentacles. So the seven here, you can see they're all listed up here, all seven pentacles. And what this represents is this is what you have earned, this is what you have accrued. This can be your knowledge, your wisdom, your money, your business. But it's sort of standing still. So this is a time of hesitation. So don't be pushing too hard, especially in the very beginning of the month, because there's going to be a square between Mars and Neptune. Neptune's down here, so Neptune is in Pisces, and he's going to be squared to Mars in Gemini, and that's the house of coming before the public and partnerships. Now, Mars squared Neptune can be very creative, but it also can be very confusing. So make sure you're staying within the boundaries of the law, and make sure you're staying with the truth. Don't try to manipulate anybody, and don't let anybody manipulate you. As we go into May, Jupiter, and that's the green guy down here, the green line, enters Pisces for the first time in 12 years. Now, this enhances your sensitivity, your compassion, your spirituality, your ability to heal. And Jupiter is very good in the sign of Pisces. He used to rule that sign. So you're going to have Jupiter in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces. So there's going to be a lot of sensitivity around. And this is a water house, and it deals with your basic foundations. So your emotional foundations, your home, your family, and there should be good things happening in that area of your life. The next thing we want to talk about is Mercury and Saturn. In the last week of May, there's Saturn, and Mercury is this deep blue line. Both of them are going to go retrograde. Now, this is important because you have to maintain how you look at the structures of your life. What may need to change? Are you thinking a certain way and it's holding you back? Do you have to review the structures that you've built in your life, the structures of how you think, how you communicate? So all of that has to come up for review. Whenever there's a retrograde, you must really review what you have established. And when Mercury's involved, you need to use clear logic. As we move into June, Mars will oppose Pluto. Now, this is very, very big because Mars is up in the the 8th house. Pluto is in the 2nd house, and both of these houses deal with finances and resources and talents and sensuality as well. So Mars is the god of war, and Pluto is Hades, the god of the underworld. So you don't want to mess with these two guys. So what you're going to have to do is try to understand that different people do things differently than you. You might have money that you want to spend in a certain way or invest in a certain way. If you're dealing with partners, though, You better talk it out. Don't try to push your way above others. On the 22nd, Mercury will go direct. You can see Mercury goes up here in direct, and he's in the sign of Gemini, which is really good because he rules that sign. And this should help clear up any confusion with partners or any dealings with the public or any legal dealings as well, because this is that house that deals with those things. So that's some good news. On June 20th, Jupiter and June 25th, Neptune both go retrograde in Pisces. So they're both going to be down here at the bottom of the chart. So Jupiter's going to be going back from the 4th to the 3rd house, and Neptune is just going to stay in the 4th house. So again, emotional issues, especially with home and family, become very important. So control your emotions, control your feelings, and be open to listening to family members who may need a good hearing as to what they need in, they're trying to put this forth, they're trying to get your help or assistance. Make sure you listen. Don't just push it off. As we go into the third quarter, the card for the third quarter is the Two of Cups. And this is a really good card. It deals with romance, with creativity, with good partnerships, good relationships, making beneficial connections. So, and there'll be correspondence also down in the chart here. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is really a good energy. Now, as we go into the month of July, it begins with a powerful Mars. There's Mars, the red line, Uranus Square. So Mars is in Leo, Uranus in Taurus. They're both fixed signs. And this is the house of understanding other people, but also your ambitions, where you want to go. And this is the house of work and health. So be a little bit careful. Don't be overly aggressive. Don't be overly ambitious, because this is a lot of willful energy, and you don't want things to get out of control. So don't push too hard. Now, both Jupiter and Saturn are going to retrograde all month. Now, when Jupiter and Saturn are involved, there's always something that has to do with finances, because Saturn is our basic structure and Jupiter is our desire or need to expand. And so when both of these go retrograde, it's time to re-look at our finances, re-look at our financial planning, and not to be too, again, pushy or aggressive, because not everybody's going to be on the same train track. They're all thinking maybe a little bit differently. And so you have to be a little careful how you express yourself, all right? Now, Venus and Mars are going to be together, those are the lovers, in the sign of Leo most of the month. So that's really very good. Now, the only thing that I might suggest where there might be some difficulty will be to a square they both will make to Uranus. So you do have to be careful with people you don't know very well, or strange ideas, or different people have different beliefs, and you're going to maybe have to try to understand them. So do maintain a little openness and a little flexibility. Otherwise, that's not too much fun. In August, Venus and Mars are still moving together, but now they're up in the 10th house, and that's the house of career. Now, the only thing I want to say to you is that this is really good. However, they're in the sign of Virgo, and neither Venus nor Mars really like that sign too much, because it tends to be a little bit too critical. So this is in the area of career, so be a little bit careful, especially with people you deal with in the career area. You don't want to be criticizing everybody, and because they won't like you. That's not a good thing. But it is a good energy for taking care of detailed business. That's a very good thing to do. On the 19th, Uranus will go retrograde in Taurus. So you're going to have to maintain flexibility And since Taurus is the sign of banking and the stock market and things like that, make sure you keep an eye on your finances, on money and in business, and in your investments in the market. So if you have to make any adjustments, this might be the time to do it. Because when Uranus goes backwards, it sort of really shakes things up a little bit. As we get to September, something really unusual happens. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are all going retrograde. Now, that's half of the planets. They're all going retrograde. So that, again, is a time for review. Now, this becomes very important on the 27th because Mercury also goes retrograde. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets retrograde. So keep that in mind as you're planning and you're trying to do things. Don't force issues, make adjustments, and life will be a lot easier. As we move into the fourth quarter, we see the King of Swords, and he is the card for the time October, November, December. That is the fourth quarter. So he is a very solid king. I mean, he's gotten all the experience of this year and the year before, and he has it all sitting right on his throne. He's illuminated here, and he's steadfast, and he uses logic. Now, one of the problems with that is he might be a little bit too cool. So make sure you maintain warmth with important people. What is happening in the month of October is Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury will all go direct. So this should help a lot in communications and business and with any personal changes that you have to make. Be especially aware on October 18th because that is the day that both Mercury and Jupiter change their direction so this rules the lower mind, the logical mind, and the abstract mind is Jupiter. So Mercury and Jupiter both going forward. This can be very helpful, but give it a day or two for things to settle down. When we get to November, there is a special day, 11/11. Now that's a mystical number. 11/11. It's the Four of Wands in the tarot deck, and it's thought to have mystical power and good fortune and all that. However, there's always a however. Mars will be squaring Saturn on that day. So again, we're going to have to be a little bit careful. December can be a very special month because we're going to have Neptune going direct right down here in the fourth house. So that's really helpful. And there'll be a very nice aspect between Neptune and Venus. Venus is this blue line here. So the beginning of the month is maybe very spiritual, very romantic. It can be really nice. So take advantage of that because, there's always a because, Venus, the powder blue line here, will be going retrograde on the 19th, right after she conjuncts Pluto. So a conjunction of Venus and Pluto can be pretty heavy duty. It is happening in the second house of business, of finances and values, and Venus represents what we value. So you might have to take some sort of time out and check your bank balance, your investments. You have to know exactly what you're spending and where it is going. You don't want to be surprised by anything. And the same thing will go with love and romance and sensuality. Be a little bit careful. You don't want to get any trouble. You must know what is valuable to you. What do you value? That's the most important thing. And finally, on the 30th of the month, Jupiter goes back into Pisces. So the 30th is just before New Year's. Jupiter expands. Pisces, very, very sensitive. There's going to be a lot of parties going on at that time, hopefully. And if you go to one, be careful. Don't overindulge too much because Jupiter has a tendency to overindulge too much food, too much drink. And we want to be really careful with everything that has been going on this whole year, we want to have something to celebrate. We don't want to have something to be sorry about. So as we go into the new year, Jupiter going into Pisces, and we're going to have Neptune in Pisces, that's really very good energy, and hopefully it'll bring some very nice blessings to you in the new year. Hi, I'm Reverend Tom Kearns, and this is my story. If you are a spiritual seeker, it may help you on your journey. I believe your spiritual development is as important as your religion. If you look at Christianity, it focuses on the life of Jesus. But Jesus was never a Christian. He was Jewish. If this thought intrigues you, you'll enjoy my new book, Light from Water, Freeing Jesus. It's available on Amazon.com and through fine bookstores. And it may help you on your spiritual journey. I'd like to thank you for watching. I'd like to thank you for listening. Please subscribe because these videos are free, and press the little bell for notifications. And if you need a psychic reading for the new year, please go to my website, internetpsychicreadings.com. And I hope you have a fabulous 2021.